Good evening. I'd like to welcome everyone to the Tuesday, March 10th Radnor Township School District Finance Committee meeting. I don't see anybody new here right at the moment, so we will get right underway with administrative remarks. Mrs. Deco?
I just have a couple administrative remarks. Jackie Hanley and myself had an opportunity to go to a recent meeting at the Delaware County Courthouse regarding the countywide reassessment, and it was very informative. We got a lot of information at that meeting. Jackie's actually updated the website to include some information about that countywide reassessment for taxpayers. What you need to keep in mind is that the county was divided into 4 zones. Radnor was the last zone. Those notices went out last Friday. So if you haven't already gotten your reassessed value, you should look for that in the mail. There is a deadline of 10 days to contact the company that's doing the reassessment. That doesn't mean taxpayers will need to have all of their documents together, but they need to schedule an appointment, and if they want to appeal that assessment. If they miss that 10-day window, they still have another opportunity to do an assessment appeal, but that would be through Delaware County, and they have to do that by a specific date. That's all outlined in the letter that they'll be receiving. So we did also get some clarifying information regarding revenue neutral and what that means to school districts and municipalities throughout the county. It's actually good news for us. What it means is that when we get our certified assessed values, which is going to happen in November of 2020, we will need to reset the current millage rate for the year that we're in, which will be 2021. And then based on that recalculated millage rate, that needs to be revenue neutral. And then moving forward, we're allowed to increase the taxes up to the Act 1 index if that's what we so choose. So that's actually good news for the district.
Thank you, Michelle, for that update. It was actually my understanding that the 10-day window is for an informal assessment appeal.
It's an informal assessment appeal, and what that means is that a taxpayer will get about 15 minutes to sit down with the company that's doing the assessment appeal and plead their case. So if, for example, your neighbor's house and your house is valued at the same amount, but you've got a pipeline running through your backyard and they don't, you would be able to go and you would be able to bring those things to their attention. They do not have all of those details. So they're asking taxpayers to really take a good look at those letters and then make that informal appeal. The other appeal would be a formal appeal with Delaware County.
I appreciate that. Do you happen to know if and you may not know this, so the information was mailed on Friday, so we can expect it in our mailboxes yesterday or today. I'm actually going to say they must be starting to arrive because I got an email with a question about this today from someone. But will it have the information about the average assessment for our township, or is it just going to be the information about your specific home?
It's just information about your specific home. Okay. And unfortunately, there is no avenue available to taxpayers currently for them to look at what their neighbor's assessment is. It's not available online. This information has gone directly out to the homeowner. So at the presentation we attended, they said, talk to your neighbors. If you have a neighbor who has a similar home, ask them what their assessment was. Okay. And talk to your neighbors. There won't be anything, I'm going to ask Jackie if she remembers, there won't be anything, I believe, on the county website for taxpayers to be able to compare their homes to their neighbors until January of 2021.
January 2021. Okay, all right, great. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
Okay, is that all you have for us
That's
tonight?
all I have, thank you.
Right. So then we're going to move right into public comment. We have guidelines on the side table. Is there any public comment tonight? Okay, then we'll move into our approval of minutes. Has everyone had a chance to read the February 11th Finance Committee meeting minutes? Do we have any changes? We're good? Okay, let's move those forward as approved. And let's get right into our agenda items, board action items. These are items that we can expect to see on our March 24th business meeting agenda. Michelle, do you want to get underway with them?
So the things that you see for approval are normal financial reports. We will have those on the agenda. We'll have approval of contracts. There'll be the Delta Dental contract, which is required to be approved because of a change to a collective bargaining agreement that was effective in January of 2020. Mr. Stitzel's here. If you have any questions, he can come up to the table and answer those questions. And then we've got the DCIU approval of the budgets for special education, their general operating, and their technical schools budget.
I'm hoping that you can just talk us through, so one of the pieces of information that we received was the funding service agreement. How is that different from the general operating budget and the technical schools budget? Why is the distinction there where it says the intermediate school special education funding service agreement?
So special education, that's slightly different because they offer a whole lot of different services to districts. So you can pick and choose which of those special education services that you want to participate in or not participate in, and that is what determines what your cost is going to be. So the special education department here will take a look at those services, see if we have children that can benefit from those services, and select to either participate or not participate, and then based on the usage, that's how you're billed. With the operating budget is based on your wealth factor, and so they spread that amongst all the participating districts. If you're a wealthier district, you pay more. If you're a poorer district, you pay less. And then the technical school, again, based on the number of students who attend and the programs that they attend, that's how those costs are calculated. And I think Maria is going to be at our school board meeting this month, so she will actually, from the IU, she'll give some more information about the services they offer.
The services, right. We're not going to get into the specifics of it's not looking to be a number crunching event. It's looking to be an informational event, right? All right, well, I'm going to put it out to the committee. If anyone has questions or comments about these, I'd say these three items, you know, they could be individual questions or questions as a whole. Anyone? Okay, great.
I guess, are there increases in the prices that we're being charged this year for services over prior years?
Yes, there's increases in special education costs and there's increases in technical education costs. Operating budget has pretty much remained flat for the last several years.
Okay. And I'm assuming, I should never assume, is the finance group looking, your office is looking to make sure that we're getting competitive rates if we're going through this IU as opposed to another service provider?
There's some things in the public school code that don't actually allow you to do that. It's a very strange setup. You're required first in many instances to go to your own IU for special education services. So that's always the first place that we look. I know that Jenny Lesage and George Riegel have been very diligent about trying to find the best appropriate place for a student if they have special education needs. And sometimes those programs cost more than they do at the IU, and sometimes they're less expensive. So I know that they do look at every single placement before making a decision.
So, and I guess that, I mean, I assume costs will go up, and when I ask if you're looking for the best price, I mean best price for what you're getting. I want to make sure that you're not spending more at our IU for something that somebody else offers a better program. Are we allowed to shop other IUs? You're saying if our IU offers the service, we have to start there unless we can make an argument?
It depends on what the service is. So sometimes you're required to go to your IU, and other times you have the ability to go elsewhere.
Okay. Go ahead.
One thing that may be helpful just to clarify, like, and correct me if I'm wrong, Michelle, but the rate that we're charged, you mentioned usage or number of students, but it's averaged out over a 3-year period.
That's correct.
So it somewhat smooths out any kind of major changes, which I thought was helpful just to understand that from a pricing standpoint.
Right, that is correct. The intent is that it helps districts that have large number of participants, it helps to even that out. Because of our location, we probably don't have as many participants as districts that are closer to the campus, but it's certainly something that's helpful to those districts.
Bradley? So could you walk through again the number that we're paying for the general operating budget? you're saying it's based on a wealth factor, and yet our number is quite a bit lower than some of the other school districts.
There's a whole formula that they use, and I mean, I'm sure that it's in this packet here. I'm not exactly sure what page it's on, but I can make sure that.
But it's both, is it both wealth and school size, I thought?
I'd have to look at it,
Okay.
Susan. They
Alright.
haven't made any changes to how they do the calculation, but I would need to take a look at it.
Yeah, I'm looking at page 15. It just, the page 15 just says the dollar amounts. It doesn't say how it was calculated. That's why I'm questioning a little bit, because I'm noticing some districts that I would just say, I just do not think are wealthier than we are.
No, but it's relative wealth and pupil enrollment, so it may
So
be
that's what I'm
that
saying.
we-
It's a
yeah.
two-part I wanted
Yeah.
it to be clear to people, it wasn't just wealth, it's wealth and enrollment.
Right.
That's what I was trying to get across there. Okay, great. So, these are the budgets. I think it's going to be super helpful, the timing of this, that we're having a couple of weeks to digest this. And then, again, not to dig down into the numbers at our board meeting when Maria Adelman, who's the director of the DCIU, comes, but to understand the kind of the host of services that we receive from the county. This is a nice time for us in conjunction with approving this. So we will expect to see that on the March 24th agenda. And then the Act 1 exceptions. Do you want to go over that one as well?
Sure. The Act 1 exceptions, we were notified last week that we received approved Act 1 exceptions for our special education expenditures in the amount of $150,957. So as we move forward with more discussions regarding the budget, we will most likely be having conversations about whether or not we want to access those exceptions. There is the very last page of your packet shows what it looks like when we receive notification that those exceptions were approved.
Do we have any questions about this? No?
Just one question. In conjunction with your administrative remarks, Ms. Deco, the millage we end up setting in this budget based on how many of these exceptions we use or don't use, that's the last calculation under the old millage before the reassessment. And then whatever level we set that at, that'll set the amount of our revenues for this year. And then it'll be those revenues that we use in conjunction with the new assessment to get a lower millage rate that keeps things revenue neutral. Am I understanding that correctly?
So what will happen in November of 2020, we will already be in the 2021 school year. So we will have set our millage for 2021.
Right, based on whatever we do with
Based
this.
on
Yeah.
whatever our assessment is on July 1 when we send the tax bills out. In November, I will actually recalculate that millage rate based on the new certified assessment in November, so that if the assessment goes up, which it will, the millage rate will automatically have to come down. And so what will then happen is, based on that recalculated assessed value and the recalculated millage rate, then we will move forward with setting our millage rate for 21-22.
So I would like to, so what do we do between November, sorry to interrupt, but this was the question when you had administrative remarks. November of '21, we'll already be in the 2021 fiscal year, that makes sense to me. We'll already have our millage rate that we will, and our assessments that we will have set in, well, we wouldn't have set our assessments, but they're already set. We will already have our millage rate that we will effectively approve in May, at our May meeting, and then it goes into effect for the July 1st bills. November comes around, the assessment is recalculated, the concurrent millage rate will have to be recalculated, and then practically speaking, what are you doing with that information between November and the next July 1st bill?
So the new assessed value, you mean?
Correct.
You're not really doing anything with it at all.
Okay.
It's set and it's certified, and that's the same thing that happens now. Our assessed value gets certified in November, but this will cause us to recalculate our millage rate. So between that November 15th, when the assessed value is certified, and the time we have to put out our draft budget at the end of December, we'll need to recalculate that millage rate and set the millage. So it's going to be a short window of trying to be able to gather that information together and put it together for the budget for 21, 20.
But the impact on a particular homeowner really won't exist, there won't be an impact on a homeowner unless there happens to be a real estate transfer and an interim, and a new tax bill is generated for a home sometime between November and June 30th.
So, correct. The only time it would impact them, the appeals all need to be completed by October. So by
Okay.
the end of October, all the appeals need to be
Sure.
completed. If you've missed that window to file your appeal, you don't have an opportunity to do that again till the following year. So after an assessment, a reassessment, every single taxpayer has the right to appeal their assessment. So it's going to take a little bit longer to get through that process and get those all done. But the county has said that by November 15th, we'll have our new certified assessed values.
Okay, all right, great, thank you so much. So then back to our exceptions, this is the amount of money that's basically even in play for us to discuss as a board as it relates to potential additional millage to be considering for the budget.
Correct.
Yep, okay, you look like you had another quick question there, Bradley.
Yeah, just one clarification question about the assessment while we're on that subject. It's revenue neutral for the township, but an individual homeowner, if they've done a lot of work on their home, they could get a jump. Somebody whose home hasn't had that kind of scenario, a newer home hasn't had a lot of work done, might not see as much of a change. So there could be individual increases or decreases, but what the calculation you're making is a township-wide revenue neutral calculation.
That's correct. So what it translates to is if you've lived in your home for a long period of time, your home value probably has increased faster than the brand-new house that was built next to you maybe 2 or 3 years ago. So there can be people who will see a reduction in their taxes and people who will see an increase in their taxes. Doesn't mean your taxes are going to double if your assessment doubled. That's one thing people are concerned about, but that's not what it means. What it ultimately means is if your taxes go up when we do the revenue neutral calculation, it means that you weren't paying your fair share of taxes and your neighbor or someone else was paying those for you. So it's supposed to put everybody on an even level playing field as of a specific date. And if you looked in the letter, you probably got your letter, I think it was June of 2019 is the even.
July 1st.
July 1st, 2019. So that's supposed to put everybody on an even playing field at that point in time. The problem with that is, since 2019, that July 1 date, there's been new construction in the township. So those newly constructed homes, we need to know the value of those newly constructed homes because they're not really part of that reassessment. They need to be treated differently. They need to be separated out, and the calculation needs to be done on them separately. So there's still some things that we're trying to work through with the county. The county probably will come to another school business administrators meeting and talk to us about how we're going to get some of those things resolved. But it was, like I said, it was a good meeting, and like you said, it doesn't mean that your taxes are going to stay exactly the same. There's other factors that come into play.
Right, okay.
All right, just one more
Sure.
question, Ms. Stern.
No.
So you're taking something and you're dividing it by the new assessment to get a new millage. What's the something? Is it the previous year's actual collected revenues, some kind of projected revenue calculation? What's your numerator before you divide by the denominator of the new assessment?
It'll be what was actually collected.
Okay, thank you.
What was actually collected?
What's actually collected, because you have some people who pay in the flat, some people who pay in the discount, some people who pay in the penalty.
You don't get to bump that up, the 1.5%, because overall we do a 98.5% collection rate?
What they were talking about was, no, it's actually based on what you actually collected. Because you are going to turn some taxes over for collection, so you don't collect those, so you don't want to include those in your calculation.
No, but in terms of potential revenue that we could be collecting upon which to calculate the new millage. Maybe that actually helps us to do the math in my head. Okay, anyway, all right, well, thank you very much. All right, so if we're good with that, then again, when we come around to have our next round of budget discussions, this will be one of the pieces we will have to specifically discuss as a board. So right now, it's just a piece of information. We're not being asked to act upon this right now. The next item, benefit rates. Do you have information for us basically as it relates to the budget and that whole process?
So this is. Sorry, just informational. We did get our second look healthcare benefit rate. It was a 0.4.
Was it less than 1%?
I believe that it was.
Good.
Todd's going to look it up for me. I didn't look that up before I came down. I apologize. So we will, and I had put it in my board update, what it was. And so we will incorporate that change into the budget as we make changes for salaries and benefits. And we also received our Delta dental rates. I've asked Jessica King, who is the benefits coordinator, to go back and ask Delta Dental to look at those rates again, because it was a 12.5% increase, and that is a much larger increase than we have seen in the years that I've been here. So I had just emailed her before I came down, so.
Well, I do have a question about that. So actually, Mr. Moore just looked it up. It's a 0.24% was what was in your, so that's a
0.24.
that's a nice number to hear for a second look. The question I have about the dental rates is, the dental contract that you're asking us to approve tonight, did that impact the rates, or did the rate renewal come in before, without the impact of, I know that that had to do with the collective bargaining agreement that we're,
It should not have impacted the rates, because we
Okay.
did have that type of dental plan in place. It's just that some groups had a lesser dental plan. So the rate I was anticipating was going to be the same for all the groups now, as opposed to being the lesser amount. But we saw pretty significant increases, like I said, for the different tiers that we have. So employee child, and employee family.
so you're going to be working with your benefits, your broker, basically?
Correct.
Okay. Do we have any questions about that?
We don't have our. We go directly.
Oh,
through
we
them.
go directly through Delta, got it. Okay, so you're going to be working directly with Delta Dental representatives. Okay.
And if we can't get a better rate out of them, will we consider a different program next year? I guess my question is how often we go out and look at new insurance providers. And
Well,
I know
our
we've had
Delta
discussions.
Dental is self-funded,
Okay,
so, there might be an explanation that we had a bad year and people used all of their dental amounts up to the maximum, which is $2,000. I don't know the answer to that. We need to get some answers for that.
Okay.
okay. By approving this contract, are we approving that 12% increase?
We would need to look at it. We weren't anticipating this increase. So at the time the agenda went out, that's when we got the.
Okay, so basically what we're saying is that there's a possibility that renewing this contract, the Delta Dental may impact the rate increase is that what you're asking?
Well, yeah, I'm asking.
committing,
you know,
basically, are we committing to the new
My
rates?
impression was we were committing to this new contract because we have a CBA that requires us to put people into a new pool. And I guess the question I have next is it not just really that we're adding people, but we're actually approving a 12% increase, or is the 12% increase for next year?
We'll double check that and get back to you.
Okay,
Okay.
yeah, I just would want to know when that's effective, because that's obviously going to affect the budget. And it affects our employees and their personal costs.
I mean, yes, if the rates go up, then they're getting fewer services or less coverage for their,
Well,
Their
and some of them have to
$2,000.
pay for some of their Delta
Right, no,
coverage,
it's
for, like
exactly.
their kids and stuff like that.
no, so we need to understand that. Okay, do you have any questions, Nancy? Okay, Bradley?
Good.
Great. Alrighty, so while we got good news on the healthcare rates, I mean, that's a pretty good second look. You'll have a little bit more work to maybe bring back to us about the dental rates. Alrighty, do we have any new business? Do we have any old business? Michelle, I do want, so you said that we updated the website, someone updated the website. Have you made that window, because I know that 10-day window about the informal reassessment request it's a very tight turnaround. You know, is that prominently displayed on our website about this?
I just have two links for Delaware County for the website for the county, Tyler Technologies, who's handling the reassessment, and then the handouts I have as an attachment as well.
Okay, I think, so maybe what we'll do is, maybe let's speak to Ken. You know, there's been a lot of promotion about this 10-day window at the township school board communications. Now, that's not to compare us, but just as a piece of information, they've been very proactively communicating this relatively small window, and for people to be on the lookout for their letters. And the fact of the matter is that your school bill is quite a bigger bill So the impact of your proposed assessment is much bigger, on the school district side. So, just want to make sure we get the word out for people that it's going to save, the reality is that it's going to save us time and energy as a district if these informal assessment appeals result in numbers and assessments that the homeowners, while they may not be completely happy with them, if they're a little happier, it's hopefully going to result in fewer actual assessment appeals, and the actual assessment appeals are what will take up quite a bit of time and energy and really will make your budget calculations more challenging. So it behooves us to make sure that if people are going to utilize this 10-day window for the informal appeals and basically make their case casually, to the extent that that's going to result in the most accurate numbers that you get in November, that's a good thing for us to do, I would think. I can't think of a reason that it wouldn't be helpful for you as a district to have the most accurate numbers.
I agree with you.
Okay.
The other issue is, again, that 10-day window is only for you to call and make an appointment. That doesn't mean that you have to get your informal appeal
No,
done
but-
within those 10 days. But it
Right.
is important to communicate that, because if you miss that, then you have to go through the formal appeal.
The formal appeal process, correct.
And the other component is informal appeal process this year, there's no cost to the homeowner. The same with the formal appeal assessment, appeal process. In a year of reassessment, there's no fee passed on to the homeowner. If you missed that window, both of those windows, there's going to be a fee for you to appeal that next year.
Right.
So we want to encourage people that they want to appeal to do it in this current year.
And again, because at the end of the day, whatever the assessment ends up being, the more accurate the numbers are for you, the better that helps with the budgeting process to know what the numbers. I mean, it's challenging for us when we have a big assessment appeal that changes your taxable numbers, mid-year, whatever. So, all righty, well, we can talk offline with Mr. Batchelor about that. All right, is there any other new business? Okay, well, seeing none, do we have any public comment here at the end of the meeting? Okay, well, seeing none, our meeting is adjourned. Thank you so much.